Good afternoon, everyone, whether you're joining us here at the Art Spirit Gallery in Coeur d'Alene or tuning in online through Facebook. I'm Chelsea Cordova, and it's a joy to welcome you today to our Artist Talk. We're gathered for our monthly opening with 3 exhibitions unfolding throughout the gallery. On our main floor is Americana with Helen Parsons, Randy Palmer, Susan Matson, and Patrick Seiler. Patrick is here, as is Helen, so if you're seeing this online, run down and you can meet the artists. In our side gallery is Heteroglossia, a not-made-for-TV series featuring collage and found objects by Carrie Scazzaro, she's also here. And in the upper gallery is our first plein air invitational that featured 10 artists, 2 of whom are here currently. I'll introduce them. Yes. The show runs through the rest of the month. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, so please come and join us. Gordon Wilson and Angelika Wilson-Wipp, did I say that correctly? Their presentation will be a reflection on painting as a shared experience, one that has shaped their lives and practice for over 30 years. They'll describe their journey through their selected works, including some early pieces, I believe you said, but with a focus on your last decade of painting in Italy and Germany. So you'll recognize Gordon's work for sure. We've carried his work, but we haven't had the pleasure of having your work.
Thank you.
However, wonderful presentation upstairs. You'll get a behind-the-scenes look at their paintings in progress, and they'll talk about the nuance between alla, prima, and plein air. So 2 approaches that reveal different relationships. And there's a relationship to time, place, and perception by each of the artists, I'm sure. So to wrap up, they'll invite you into a brief observation exercise. You'll see the boards next to you, so stick around for that. And it's an opportunity to slow down and see the world through artists' eyes. All right, and with that, let's begin.
Thank you. Here you go.
Well, before I start, Patrick Seiler is right back here, and we're surrounded by his work here. So I'm sure we met at some time, but it might have been 25 years ago, so I don't know. This is a picture of Angelika and I in 1993, and this is actually before we were married. So we were doing plein air before we were married. So we've been doing plein air longer than we've been married. So I thought that was an interesting thing. We use this for our wedding announcement, so not the same as most people would use.
Good. And I would not recommend walking on the railroad tracks, but it was a very cool place to hike to. So.
Later, a man with a gun told us we couldn't walk on the tracks anymore.
Here we go.
Yeah. So where I grew up in Ridgefield, Washington. Now, Ridgefield, Washington is just north of Vancouver, Washington. And I always tell people it's the home of the Spudders. Our school mascot was and still is a potato. And we were the Ridgefield Spudders. The cheerleaders were the Spudettes. I suppose they still are. And the Spudarian was the school newspaper. So all of those things surround the whole potato image. Anyway, Angelika and I painted in Ridgefield. In fact, that first photo was taken in Ridgefield. I wanted to show her the place where I grew up and that it was a wonderful place to do plein air. And we had found a place just off the trail at the game preserve in Ridgefield where it was surrounded by brush and trees and blackberry vines that were probably about this high. So we found this area that was surrounded, but inside of it were these twisty trees, and so we started painting them. I think we painted them one year and came back the next year and painted them again. And this was must have been the second year we were painting, and I made this painting. It was raining at the time, and we were surrounded by the bushes, and there were limbs up above, so we were really in this kind of capsule. And so we kind of called it the secret garden. It was raining when we painted these, and it was foggy, so that's why it looks the way it does. I always felt that a lot of trees looked like the human form, and some of them turned into kind of human bodies there. But an interesting thing happened while we were painting. Angelika was at a different part of the secret garden than I was, and she said, "There are blossoms on this tree." And I looked and I said, "This is an old orchard." We didn't know that. We'd painted there before, but it was when the trees didn't have leaves on them. They were just starting to have blossoms. So she painted the blossoms. Then we realized the trees were actually in line with one another. It was an old orchard, but it was so overgrown with bushes in between that it was pretty hard to tell.
And you can see some of Gordon's trees in the distance there as well, hinted.
Yeah.
or maybe different trees.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah, we put that aside. Want to go to the next one?
Okay.
So I don't know, can you all see that screen? It's kind of low. I wish we had it a little bit higher. We come from different backgrounds, and in 1980 was the first time I went to France, and the first time I'd gone overseas. Actually, it was the first time I flew in an airplane. I ended up in Paris, so that was pretty unusual. But I formed a relationship with Jim Ritchie, a sculptor who was born in Quebec, and this was actually prescribed by what he wanted me to do. I would stay with him for weeks at a time, once a full month, and he had a wonderful villa, 30 olive trees, and this was the largest olive tree on his property. And he wanted me to make a specific painting. And we had a deal that I would stay there free, but before I left, he would pick one of my paintings. And so he said, I want you this time to do a painting just the way I want it done. So he wanted this one of his sculptures here, his Madonna sculpture. This sculpture he wanted centered in this door. He wanted the table set for two. This, he said, was a male chair, and this is a female chair. I learned later why he said that. He wanted the two plates set, wine glasses, two candlesticks, and a bird of paradise on the table. So he was very specific about what he wanted in the painting. I've never had to do that before, so I made a sketch, and I actually measured everything out, how long the canvas had to be, how tall the canvas had to be, made the painting just to the way he wanted it. And when I finished, I decided, since he was going to have that painting and I went to all that work, I made a second one pretty much like the first one. And I said, I would never do a painting like that. And he said, what would you have done? And I said, well, I would do just one side. So I did that painting, and he said, I'll take that one. So I ended up with two paintings the same. This is from his property, and when I stayed with him, I would stay in the lower level. This was his round room. Just to explain, when the house was built, it was a cistern, so it was circular, and he designed it into a round room, and so these frames and doors had to fit into a round room. He says it was really chaotic when they were installing those doors. So.
Okay. Okay, so here you can see us in Germany. So I'm originally from Germany, from Munich, and we both own a little place now in Straubing, which is on the Danube, and it's a place where my parents used to live, and we turned it into a little artist studio. There we have bicycles, and so we often take our bicycles out and with our sketchbooks and our cameras, and the really cool part is that we can wait until the light is just right, and then we zip out and sketch and take our pictures right in Straubing. Straubing is a very bicycle-friendly town because it's flat. There are lots of bicycle trails. There are even some streets that are closed off to the main traffic, except for those people that live there. And we can just ride anywhere and explore our environment. Okay, there we go.
When we're wandering around, we're always looking for a composition, and what we really like to look for is a place that has a good composition, but also that has some kind of history or story that's connected with it. So this is when we were staying in Orvieto, and I think these were all from the summer before last.
Yeah.
And there's a place we like to walk. There's a long path that's shaded by these mostly sycamore trees. And we really like those trees, and they have a lot of, the limbs look like human limbs, and often they look like they're human torsos. And we have 4 paintings upstairs that involve those trees. One thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about, and so all of you have a drawing board fairly close to you, so why don't you put a drawing board in your lap, and we want you to do a little exercise. You won't be graded on this. And you're getting something to use as your subject. We do want them returned at the end.
The pictures of the boards.
The pictures you can keep. So you'll recognize some of these shells. Yeah, it's because you brought them back from Mexico. So especially when you're doing plein air, direct observation is very, very important. And lots of people, myself included, think I'm observing when I'm really not. And that was pointed out to me by a visiting artist when I was in graduate school. Actually, it was Jack Beale, a New York painter. He looked at what I was doing and he said, when you're painting the landscape, are you looking at the landscape? And I said, yes. And he said, well, why don't you really look at it? And so I realized I really wasn't looking that closely. So what I want you to do is a little exercise, and it's extremely simple. It's so simple, it's for some people it's difficult to do. And some of you have done this before. You've done it before, haven't you? Yeah. So what I want you to do is, it's good if you hold the shell off to the side, so when you look at it, you're not looking at your paper. So this is an exercise, often it's called blind contour. Maybe that's not a good title, but what I want you to do for about 6 minutes is to look only at the shell and not at your paper. And I want you to look at the edges you can see around the shell. So there's an edge that goes all the way around the shell, but there are also interior edges that you can see too, contours and cross contours. So what I want you to do, and it's important that you do this specifically, and it really has an interesting effect if you're able to do it. Some people absolutely can't do it. So I want you to discover a point on that shell and put your pencil point down, and as best you can, imagine your pencil point being at this point on the shell. And to move your eye as slowly as you possibly can along that contour edge that you see, and move your pencil along with your eye. And if you have the feeling that you're going too fast, stop and start slowly again. But don't lift your pencil point up, and don't take your eye off the shell, and just follow any contour you see. Don't talk, don't look at your drawing. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's important that you have the experience, okay? Whichever has the most, and the more information you're looking at, the better it works. It's important that you follow the contour with your eye and pencil point at the same time, and you go very, very, very slowly and look at every little tiny indentation and hill that you see on that shell.
Good, and I'll put some music on.
This is a good group. Most of you are able to concentrate. Often when I do this with a class, we'll go 15 minutes, then 30 minutes, or even longer. But the interesting thing is that if you were able to not look at your page, I saw some of you looking back and forth, and some of you maybe going a little bit fast, whatever. But you kind of have to convince yourself that it doesn't matter what the drawing looks like. But if you look at it, often people will say that the edge looks like the edge of that object, whatever it is. So it feels like that object, even though it may not be an accurate drawing, so it might not be the right height and width, but the edge is there. But what you just did, if you were able to look at that object for the whole time, is something that almost nobody ever does. That's look at an object and not take their eyes off of it for several minutes. And I was thinking this morning that if a man is buying an engagement ring for his betrothed, that he probably doesn't look at the ring as long as you just looked at that shell. And so anyway, were we going to say something? So maybe 30 seconds. So when we're out working, we spend more time looking at what we're drawing or painting than what we spend looking at the painting. And especially when I'm doing edges, I don't stop moving my pen or pencil point just because I'm looking at the object itself. I keep moving my hand, and I feel like I'm more connected to the subject if my hand is moving while I'm looking at the object. And so, although this seems like a silly exercise, it's actually part of every painting and drawing that I do that's connected with something that I'm looking at, and it's almost always that's what I'm doing too.
Good. Yeah, and typically we look for a place that's interesting to draw and to paint, and because we want to have a exciting and dramatic composition. And you can see here I'm painting without an umbrella because it's really windy there. Gordon has an umbrella there. It's not to shade us, but it's to shade the painting and the palette. And because it was a bit windy, Gordon had to tie his umbrella and easel to the fence there.
You
right?
might be able to kind of see it right here that it's actually tied to the fence.
So it's a good thing to always have a rope along when you do your plein air painting. I once was painting on a cliff, but the view was much better behind the safety fence, so I climbed over the fence. But I have the tendency to step back when I want to look at the composition, and I really didn't want, and I do it automatically, but I didn't want to step off the cliff, so I tied myself to the safety fence so I wouldn't fall off the cliff. So anyhow, that's how crazy painters are sometimes. Here we go.
When we're painting, lots of times there are a lot of interruptions, and so how do I do that?
Oh, sure.
We found that in this particular place in the afternoon was the very best lighting, but there was also always a strong wind in the afternoon. And it wasn't so much that it was blowing the sack around, but the canvas was actually moving back and forth, and I'm trying to paint on the canvas. In this one, this young critic, we enjoyed him quite a lot. He gave a critique of both our paintings, which he liked both of them. He liked them in the unfinished state, so he liked my purple painting, for instance, there. So that's the underpainting. Yeah. When we were painting Orvieto especially, there's one place where we'd like to paint, and a group of tourists would come through periodically, and sometimes we'd just give up and wait, and this woman's taking a photograph by the painting I'm working on. So. One thing a comment we often get is, it must be really relaxing to go out plein air painting, and so we intentionally
so there you see. So it's quite steep. It's over 100 degrees. The wind is blowing.
You couldn't hear what I said, but I'm saying it's so relaxing. So, yeah.
And before we had the little cart, we actually used to carry everything in our backpacks. And so we had about 35 pounds easily in our backpack, plus our canvases that we would carry around and hike to places to paint.
I'm not stopping because I'm done walking. I'm stopping to catch my breath.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you can see my painting stuff up there. Meanwhile, I'm painting a little higher up the hill, so you can see here my underpainting. This is the woman whose yellow house was down in my painting, and she would come by every day to check the progress, and was very excited that I did include her house in my painting. And then I kind of, one part I really like about painting in Europe is that at noon, before the sun shifts and the shadows all go to the other side, right at noon, all the church bells are ringing. And so I have a little recording right here. Yeah, and it's just I always pause, and it's just a really special moment every day out there. And this here you can see the death of my umbrella. And so because I when I was adding the paint or the colors to my painting, I really wanted to see color, but the light was so incredibly bright that I needed the umbrella to shade me or to shade the painting so I could see color and wouldn't be all blinded out. But I was holding on to the umbrella and the canvas while I was painting madly. I mean, it was really a frenzy that I was in. And you said, "What are you doing?" Anyhow, I was just painting away because I wanted to finish it, and then obviously I couldn't finish it because then I realized that my painting my painting umbrella was shredded into all these pieces, and I couldn't use it anymore. But the interesting part was that I thought the painting was not finished. But then sometimes it's good to listen to your husband, and he said, I think it's sometimes. He said, "I think it's finished," and he was right because my underpainting of the landscape behind the village, it kind of works like aerial perspective and dropping back, and I actually made it into a juried show at the Shack Art Center with several other Washington art educators, and which was a very exciting experience. So.
Often when we're painting from direct observations, we see things that we're not actually painting. So I was actually doing this painting in Capodimonte, and there were bathers here, and I had some bathers in the painting, and these two actually were down on the beach, but then they decided to lay down right to where I was painting, and it was such a beautiful couple that I couldn't help but take a photograph of it.
Okay, I'll get. I just saw some students come in, and it's wonderful to have my students here, and so thank you for coming.
There's still some places to sit.
Yeah, there's still some places to sit, and yeah, come on in, and we have time. Yeah.
Where are you teaching?
I teach at Mount Spokane High School. It's in the Meade School District, a little north of Spokane. That's great. That's great. Good. Should we go on? Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I actually meant to talk about sooner is the difference between alla prima and plein air. And a lot of times people put those two together and consider them not different. So alla prima means it's a painting that you finish in one session, usually the same day. And often that's done plein air, but not necessarily. But a plein air painting is done in natural changing light, usually out of doors, although some of the paintings that I've done indoors when it was only with natural light, I consider plein air as long as there's not artificial light. So most of the paintings that we do now are over usually a 3 or 4 day period. Mm-hmm. So we keep going back to the same place if we're painting out of doors, and sometimes we we don't quite finish the painting out of doors. In this case, we had to drive to Bolsena, Lake Bolsena, to do these, and this is at the end of a pier, so we had to drive there, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes. Then we had to walk another 15, 20 minutes. Then we had to set up another 10 minutes. And then it was hot. And the heat came from above, but it also reflected off the water and hit us from below too. And so in this particular painting, when I put this image in, I thought it was finished, but actually I hadn't finished this part. That's still underpainting. That purple part is often what we start with, a dark purple. And so I hadn't quite finished that part. I thought I had. So what we did, instead of driving back, we both had paintings that were nearly finished. And so we took them back to where we stay at La Palma, which is a bed and breakfast. Mostly it's just a restaurant now, but they let us stay upstairs above the restaurant. And while we were painting in the hot sun, Lucio came out with a beer for both of us.
Yeah, and it was ice cold beer. Anyhow,
and it was very hot. So
yeah, and it was interesting because when we were sharing the jetty with the fishermen, this one guy came up, and it turned out that he actually was from Hamburg, from Germany, and it was very important for him that I put the windows in the right place of the castle, because that's where his
and the right number of
yeah,
windows.
and the right number of windows, because that was where his mom lived, and she was partnered with the artist who was a ceramist working up there. Yeah, and we had lots of, it was fun. This boat never left the harbor, and but there were lots of, it was on the weekend, so there were lots of people on the big sailboats coming out of the harbor while we were painting, so it was very beautiful. You had a question?
Is that painting for sale?
It's not for sale right now. It's in my classroom. Okay, there you go. All right, and here's another one thing I wanted to point out here. This is in Capo di Monte, and it's very important that when you do plein air painting that you wear a big rimmed hat because at some point, for the underpainting, it's okay to have sunglasses on, but then you really need to protect yourself of the sun, and also so you can see colors.
Yeah, the brim actually shades your eyes, and if you look without the brim, the colors get fainter, and when you have the brim and the shadow over your eyes, you can see the colors much, much better.
Yes. Okay, so here are a couple of my paintings. You can see the underpainting here, and the finished painting that's also in my classroom. This is Marta, and
Should I put this up?
no, not yet. And Marta is a little village also on Lake Bolsena. Lake Bolsena is a volcanic lake, and with black sand going in. And if you know which beach to use, you will not have leeches there, which is great. But here it was also windy, so I wasn't able to use an umbrella. I had to tie my easel to the fence. And the really fun part about Marta that I will always remember is that there were lots and lots of seagulls, and they would be flying around us and would be talking all day long. And we were always
They sat up on a tower right behind us.
And we were always imagining what might they actually be talking about. So anyhow. And here we are in Porano. Porano is an old medieval village, and but most of the buildings have been restored to one degree or another. And so here's the cathedral, and people were very curious about who we were. So this man came up. People usually don't talk to Gordon, they talk to me because I speak a little bit of Italian, and Gordon is usually very concentrated on his painting. I'm too, but anyhow, so he asked me all kinds of questions in Italian, and I tried to answer them. And then he walked up the cathedral steps, and then everybody, all these old people, came out of their houses, and he gave them the report of who we were, and then everybody would greet us in English. Also the little kids on their bicycles in the streets, they would greet us in English, which was really, really great. And there was also a restaurant that was actually closed during the week, but the guy opened just for us to make us lunch at about 2 o'clock or 2:30 in the afternoon, and brought us stuff from his garden.
He also saw it as a challenge that we didn't eat meat.
Yes.
And so he had to make a lunch every day that didn't involve meat. So.
Yeah, and so he even called a friend to dig up truffles, and they were just about coming into season, and so we had pasta with fresh truffles on top, which was delicious. And but also at noon every day, the opera channel was on. And you can hear this guy getting very excited, and the window was open, and he was cooking.
He would sing with it every day.
And clack his. Here you go. The cooking utensils.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
We could hear him.
And here you can see
we could hear him
painting.
singing along with the radio or television, but we could also hear him banging his dishes because he was making lunch. So.
And clapping along in rhythm, which was great. Okay, here you go.
Well, this is two interesting things here. One is this is a street that we had found one time and taken photographs of. And then later we wanted to find this street again, and we couldn't find it. And we asked our host family if they knew where it was, and they sent us to several places that had similar-looking arches on them, but not this one. And when I showed them we found it, and I said, now when I made the painting, I corrected a little bit of the architecture. I said the window was in the wrong place, and it should have been an arch. And so I put it in the right place and made it an arch, and they just couldn't deal with that concept that I'd changed something that I saw. But often when we're painting, we change something to make it suit the composition better. So it's not necessarily doing everything just the way we see it.
Here you go.
As I said, we're often looking for a composition, actually almost all the time, even when we're not going out painting. And sometimes it's the lighting condition that makes that, and these weren't exactly the same time, but what made this interesting to me is in the evening, this shadow on the buildings was very unusual. But also in the evening is when all the evening cafes are open and people come for a cocktail or for a dinner. And so it's kind of a warm kind of a time in Orvieto. And so I liked it because of that composition, but also that it suggested what activity goes on at that time of day. This is actually less than a block from where we stay in Orvieto, and several times I thought I should paint the front of that building, but it was so flat you couldn't see either side, you couldn't see the top, couldn't see the bottom, so it's just one flat facade. And finally they said, well, I'm going to paint that facade, and I actually painted it twice. The photograph wasn't taken when this kind of light hit it. When the light hit it just right, it cast all these shadows across the building, and those diagonals of the shadows were extremely important to making the painting. Another thing that I was going to avoid was this railing in front, but I decided it was extremely important to the composition. It was kind of a pain to paint, but actually it suggested that kind of closure that you see, especially in these older, really elegant, large homes.
Mm-hmm. And it's upstairs in the gallery. Okay, good.
Two more paintings. This is a place where we've found a nice walk, and it was hot as usual in Orvieto, and so we sat down on a bench here, and the reason the garbage can is here is important to our experience there. We were sitting there for a while, and Angelika said, "Did you shower this morning?" And I said, "Of course I did." I said, "I'm sitting next to a garbage can, and there's a seafood restaurant right down the street." So anyway, so it was important to put the garbage can in. This is kind of that typical light at the end of the tunnel sort of thing, and I liked that image. And I actually made it from two different points of view, so if the street looks like it's curved a little bit wrong, it's because it really didn't curve that way, but it made a better composition. And I decided this was just a really blank area when I was looking at it, so I put a Bob Ross sky in there. So I did it really quick too, like he does. So this is also Prano, the place where we had our own private restaurant, and what did you show? Oh yeah, where we're listening to the recording. This is a really steep place, and of course it was interesting because of the history, but also all these different angles. And in the hill villages, it's really common that a lot of the structures follow the angle of the hillside, and so all those different angles mean that the streets aren't straight and things don't line up correctly, and that's part of what makes it so interesting to paint. If you get it a little bit wrong, it doesn't really matter. I'm calling this a plein air painting. I actually was indoors in the hallway down from an apartment that we own now, and the windows were open and there were no lights on because it was daytime, so I was using natural light, and I did finish it in one session, so it's alla prima and it's plein air. And right here was a garden at this time. This was several years ago, and now there's a house there, and it belongs to these two people who are gardeners, and I don't know how many generations Stefan's family. It's
5 generations, it said. Yeah.
So Stefan and his wife Tanya, and they're right next door to us, and every day they drive the tractor with a wagon behind it and sell produce in the marketplace, and then they come back, and at a certain time in the afternoon, 1:30.
1:30, 2 o'clock.
1:30 they come back, and if anybody in the neighborhood wants produce, they can go down and get produce from them, and they give us a good price. And we often come home with, 7 pounds of tomatoes at a time?
Yeah.
We really like tomatoes, but we have peppers, tomatoes, lettuce.
Watermelons and cantaloupes.
Yeah, so anyway. So it's really cool that we have them as neighbors.
Yeah, and they're really wonderful people. And here, last spring when we went to Germany to stay at our place, it was the second night. We were completely jet lagged and couldn't sleep, and I opened the windows after 1 o'clock in the morning, and this is what I saw out there. Anyhow, so the storage building of all the garden equipment of the garden business of our lovely neighbors was completely on fire, and we were the first ones on the scene. Everybody was asleep. Nobody noticed the fire.
It was a quiet little neighborhood.
Yeah. So Gordon was able to wake them up, so we could get the fire trucks and we had about 60 firemen and firewomen working to put out the fire. Thankfully, the walls of the building were built with corrugated metal, so it was kind of like a kettle, and the flames were going up and didn't burn down the whole neighborhood, but it was a scary experience. And so you can see here my underpainting, and we never found out, or they never found out who caused the fire. It was probably arson. But there were these sheep in the neighborhood, just one block down, and I made friends with those sheep. And so I think, maybe the sheep know who caused the fire, but of course they're silent. Anyhow, and we even met the head criminal investigator of the police in Straubing. He came to our home and interviewed us because we were the first ones on the scene. So that's quite an experience. All right. So here, this is also in Straubing. This is an underpainting that I also did during that time. Last spring, I need to finish it. For me, underpaintings are really important to block in the shapes, to lay in the lights and the darks, the value structure. And then only once that's done, then I start adding color. And I usually start with the sky and the negative space, and then build up the rest of it. And I'm a little excessive sometimes with underpaintings because I don't know where I'm going unless I know where the structure lies. And this is in Straubing. You can see the the Danube here, the buildings here on the other side of the Danube. There were lots of, it was in the spring, so there are lots of daffodils. Germans believe that daffodils are good against voles. And so they plant them everywhere in Straubing in the spring, and it's just beautiful in the city park, along the creek, everywhere.
We planted 100 in our garden.
Yeah. And so here you can see it was this was last summer. It was extremely stormy and rainy every day. But in between storms, we could hop on our bicycles with our sketchbooks and our cameras. And it made for some really dramatic skies. So here's one of my paintings there. I cheated a little bit because there was a tree here in the city park, but I didn't like the tree as much as this tree, which was about 15 minutes with a bicycle away, and so I added that tree instead. Okay. And here you can see the underpainting and the painting of the ducks with this house. It's a house that's totally overgrown with broken windows, and it's on the bicycle trail next to the creek that leads to town. So you can take your bicycle or walk into town or to the grocery store. And there are lots and lots of ducks. And so interestingly, we found out later it was not intended. This house actually used to be an old porn shop, but it's not in use anymore. And so it really contrasts, here's this kind of scary haunted house, and then this lovely duck family down there.
There's a stream that runs past where we live in Straubing, and the ducks are an important part of that stream. When we wake up in the morning, we can hear the ducks talking to one another. Mm-hmm. We had a really interesting experience. I don't know if you've been around ducks, but we were really close to some ducks who wanted us to feed them. You don't feed them, though. And they made really quiet little noises that not like the loud noises they usually make.
Yeah. And then this painting here, I completed that also last summer. It's Bogenberg. It's a hill in the landscape. You can see here the Danube Flats, and I really wanted to capture that beautiful view there of the Danube Flats. But then also there was this old historic marker. It's like walking up the hill. There are the Stations of the Cross. It's very traditional for Europe. And at the top of the hill is a pilgrimage church. And so this is the 14th Station of the Cross. And then this tree that was so dramatic, I really wanted to capture that. In actuality, that tree was a little bit further over, but I moved it a little closer so it could complete the composition.
Now, for me, this painting is really important, but some of you can see this, but this looked like either a snake or this actually looks like a female figure, and I thought those really related to the religious theme.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. And it's hard to see here, but you can actually, on the plaque, I actually did paint in the religious theme, but it's not, as much contrast because it was on this black metal surface there. So. And this one, my brother, he loves to hike, and so he took us on a hike around the Arba Lake in the Bavarian woods, and I found this amazing. First of all, it was beautiful there, and then I found this amazing foxglove, and I didn't know how toxic they actually are, but so I called this painting Toxic Beauty.
There were floating islands in the lake, too.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And here, the cat. So I call it the studio cat. So when we were in Italy, so back to Italy, there was this cat that always would kind of jump out of the window close to where we were painting, and then was very curious and playful, and so I just felt I needed to include that cat into a couple of my paintings.
Sometimes in the night,
Yeah.
we'd be out on our little balcony in the dark having a glass of wine or just talking, and the cat would come up on the roof and find a way to get up to where we were on the balcony and come and visit us there.
Yeah.
It would play a little bit, but then when it rolled on its back, you wanted to stop playing with it.
Yeah, yeah, and you can see the cat hidden in here, and so that's the oleander tree. That painting is actually upstairs. It's an oleander tree that was in the garden right next to the place where we were staying in Italy, and I've always wanted to paint that tree because it looked so tortured because there were so many limbs that or sprouts that come out that they all were chopped off but it made it so beautiful then altogether and again very figurative. And then here is the cat again. It's under the blue arch of the Mystery Street that Gordon was talking about, but it's the other direction. Here, and then you can see my setup here in the tree, and here's where I started painting the tree in the underpainting. And then here you can see, and the cat, it's just around, very curious.
If we left the door open to where we live, it would go in too.
Yeah.
Of course.
And so here's that cat again, and this one is a different cat. These are actually not painted plein air; they're studio paintings. The first one, it's a composite of 3 scenes, so it's the cat, and then all these really crazy, cool-looking flowers in Bolsena and the old town of Bolsena, and then on the right. We are in Graduli, and I really wanted to paint that century plant with the cat in there. And but before I did that, I actually did a painting on site of Graduli, and you can see here I'm standing at the hillside. So I was standing at an angle. It was a pretty steep road, and we had to drag everything up there because our car wouldn't have our Italian car that didn't have a lot of horsepower would have not made it up the hill.
It was actually a Chinese car.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have made it up the hill, I don't know. We probably would have made it down again. But anyhow, so we didn't want to get stuck, and so we dragged it all up there and painted here. And you can see here my painting, and then the village right here. And this one is also upstairs. So you can see here, this is how finished it was when I brought it back from Italy, and then I finished it just a couple weeks ago, the last touches of it. And you can see here Gordon is also painting there, and there was a group that was setting up for a concert, so you can hear. So it's the underpainting. So you can see it's hot, and there's my painting over there with the umbrella. So, and the building here to the left, it's an old convent. And then if you keep going that street, you've come to a very nice view as well. That is very paintable. Oh, and then I had a little moment of fame. So Gordon and I, we were painting on the cathedral steps in Orvieto, and this photographer came up and he wanted to take professional pictures of us, and then he emailed them to us. And I was in the middle of painting this really dramatic sky, and it was just one of those perfect scenes when the sky was really dramatic. It really completed the composition, because otherwise it would have been a bit empty. And here's Gordon painting.
We found that if we're going to set up in a public place, it pays not to ask permission, just to set up. And usually people don't complain. And so we're really on the front steps of the church. Mm-hmm. And here I must have been starting the painting, because I'm looking at my preliminary sketch while I'm painting here. Mm-hmm. We had seen this sky
the day before, yeah.
The day before. Mm-hmm. So I was making the painting, and of course the sky wasn't very interesting, so I put the sky in that I'd seen the night before. So it actually looked like a fire.
Okay, and here a couple more pictures of paintings that are here in the show. So this is a sycamore tree, and you can see the underpainting right there that I started. And here's the other sycamore tree. We both, when we were going on walks, would make sketches of those trees. And we thought, well, why not paint them this time? And they were just so figurative in every way. And so we decided to put them into our paintings. Can you say anything? Okay.
So we have a very special Spokane family, and the head of that family is here, and that's my daughter. And you know, Mark, that makes you my son-in-law. So we spend more time with you than any other family that we do, and we're very thankful for you. So, but when we go overseas, especially to Orvieto, we have another family, and this is a few years old, but this is Cesarina and Lucio, and this is Maria, or Mary, she's often gone by. This is Elena and Felipa, and we have Cesarina a couple more times because she's so, prominent in the family.
She's big mama, yeah.
and the moped, when she's getting mostly vegetables and things for us to eat, she'll have several packages inside the moped and hanging from the handlebars, and she can bring a huge amount of groceries on that little moped. And one advantage for it is that the street is one way, but if you're on a moped or bicycle or something, it's not too hard to go the wrong direction on the street. So she can go both ways on the street by using the moped.
That's fine.
This is Mary or Maria and her daughter Vittoria, and this must be at least a year old.
A year old, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway. And this is Elena. So these are two of the daughters of our host family, and Elena's holding a bottle of wine not because she wants to drink the wine, but because her husband is, his family owns an organic winery. And this was a new wine they just came out with, and she was trying to take a picture of it with the landscape behind it, and I just thought it was really funny and took her picture. So,
yeah. And this is where they prepared a wonderful dinner for us out in the countryside, invited us to their place, which was just a very, very special treat.
Which is right near the winery.
Yeah, and you can see the vineyards going down, and then Lake Corbara, which is a beautiful lake as well. So, there you go.
So we're back in Germany again, and we first started by making paintings of the grander scenes, the large areas with large reflections, but we've also now started painting the more intimate scenes along the stream that goes past where we live. And the pathway is a really important part. This pathway follows the stream. I don't know, it doesn't actually go all the way down to the Danube, does it? Well, the stream does, but not the pathway. And we walk on that pathway a lot, and this is Angelika walking down the pathway here. Mm-hmm. So we either walk on the path or ride a bicycle on the path, and we can go to the grocery store that way, or we can go most of the way to the Danube that way.
Yeah,
and so that path is really important.
And to the bakery in the morning.
And this is just a short short distance from where we live.
Yeah.
Well, especially during COVID, I started again painting more scenes around Spokane. And this is actually a fairly large painting. It's
3 by 4
3 feet by 4 feet. And it's the Spokane River, and it's right near 7 Mile. If some of you walk down there, there's a place where the power lines go across the river, and it's a lot of people fish in this area. My son and I used to fish here and catch rainbow trout. So we put them in a bucket and bring them home, and they'd still be alive when I was heating up the frying pan. So these are a couple more Spokane paintings, and I did have an exhibit at the Marmot Art Space of not entirely bridges, but I called it the Bridges of Spokane County, and there were a lot of bridges in that exhibit. So this is not the Monroe Street Bridge, but the Leda Creek Bridge, or sometimes it's called the Sunset Bridge. And down below, I don't know what that bridge is called, but it's on Deep Creek, and it's a fairly simple bridge.
Oops. Oh, hold on. It's not, oh, there you go.
So that's two versions of my wife on the left, and this drawing, actually, the day after we were married, we left, and she ended up in Germany. I ended up in the south of France at an artisan residency, and she was a postwoman in Germany. It was her summer job. And I had drawn the face on this large 42 by 56 inch piece of Arches Reeves BFK paper. And then when I took it with me and I drew all sorts of things that had to do with the place where I was living in France at the time around it, including these really strange seed pods. At the end of every one of our trips, we have to take all the canvases off the stretcher bars, roll them up with plastic in between them. We never look forward to this part of the trip. Some of the paintings won't be completely dry and they could be damaged, but also it's just the bending over and trying to get, taking two of us to get the plastic over the paintings before we can roll them up. And then we put them in the suitcase. We even have a special suitcase. It's kind of a cross between a suitcase and a duffel bag, and it will accommodate a 32-inch rolled up canvas, so they just barely fit in there. So we don't want to have any canvas that we paint on that's wider than 32 inches. It can be as long as you want to because they roll up. So that's what it looks like in our suitcase. And so far, we've never had the customs people unroll those paintings. So,
Yeah,
anyway.
so we're grateful, yeah. And that's the end of our presentation. So I don't know if you have any questions, and thank you so much for listening.
One thing we didn't mention about these drawings, and Angelika emphasizes this a lot, is when you do this exercise, it makes some kind of a change. I don't know if it forms a synapse in your brain, but it helps you to have better eye-hand coordination. Mm-hmm. So see if you see a difference, because it really does make a difference when you actually do that exercise, and do the drawing without looking at
Yeah,
them.
and it helps you slow down because sometimes, often we rush through the day so much, and to actually slow down and look and take time to look, it's a treat. Yes, thank you. Good. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Well, I noticed when you were painting there on the street level that you had a cloth on the back.
Oh, yes.
Is that to keep the light from...
Yeah, it's the same reason we have a cardboard here, so that if you're painting and that light shows through, you can't see what you're doing. So that's why we have those. And
Yeah, and we usually just take some push pins and pin it on, and then maybe a little bit of tape so that that it covers the back, and that helps. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Are you working just with oils?
Yeah.
we
much.
do. It'd be much smarter to use acrylics, but we like oils, so what are you going to do?
That's right. Yeah.
So you said that color is really important to you to see the color,
Yeah.
but you take a lot of liberty with color.
Well, we usually use what we see, but we exaggerate. And
Yeah.
But there's some reasons for doing that. One is to emphasize what we really like about what we're seeing. So if we see colors we really like, we want to make sure that you can view those. And if you're looking at a painting and you get back 10 or 15 feet, you have aerial perspective with that painting. And so the colors actually look duller when you get back. So making them a little brighter makes them stand out better. Also, most people don't have lighting in their house that's really ideal for looking at paintings. So if you make them a little more intense than they are and they're in a house where the lighting's not ideal, it looks maybe not just like the scene, but it's more like what we'd like it to look like. So yeah, we do take liberties.
Yeah. Add the drama, Yes.
Well, thank
other
you all for
questions?
coming,
Yeah.
and you can keep the drawings, but don't keep the shells.
Yeah, and the plein air exhibit is upstairs, but there's also an exhibit at the main level, and I think downstairs it's quite interesting as well. So.
And Helen Parsons is right back there, and those are her pieces hanging on the wall there. And Patrick Seidler was here for these, and Carrie Scarazzo was back here, and she has work back in the gallery there.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Thanks. Hey, thanks so much for coming. Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. We need to take some pictures with kiddos. I have my phone here because I have it.
But do you want them here or up with the paintings?
Maybe by the paintings. Yeah, that would be cool. I can leave this here.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely.
It was true. I
Thank
would
you.
go, you know,
That's
we
Kurt also,
talked
so
about
that's
it, but
very
we both
cool.
give a lot of presentations, but never together.
Yeah, yeah.
You have the Oktoberfest to go.
Yeah.
Und wie geht's? Gut?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
My brother lives in Munich.
Great. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, yeah. That's her hometown.
Yeah, I see that, which is wonderful. And the things are upstairs. So